It's a drugstore day today. I feel like my feed lately has been Sephora. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I participated also. You just saw my Sephora haul go up, but I figured today, let's switch it up. Let's talk about drugstore makeup and specifically the most underrated drugstore products in every single category. I saw Jessica Braun film something like this a few months back and immediately I was like, yep, that needs to go on my to film list. So today, let's do something out of the ordinary. Let's start in the lip category. I normally start with base, but I'm keeping you on your toes today to talk about the most underrated lip products at the drugstore. Starting with my favorite category, lip liners. I want to talk about the lip liners from Rimmel. Rimmel was recently Leaping Bunny certified cruelty-free, and I've been testing out some products and man, do they have some good things, but they're just a really under the radar brand in general. I feel like they don't get a lot of buzz, and I think part of that is because they're a little bit tricky to find. They're not at Ulta, they're not at every drugstore, so depending on where you're located, you may have an easier or harder time finding Rimmel. But the the lasting finish lip liners are so good. Okay, you know I love the NYX lip liners. I talk about them all the time. These are for anyone who likes the NYX ones, but you feel like maybe the NYX ones are a little bit too stiff or you wish they were just a tiny bit creamier. Introducing the Rimmel ones. This is like similar vibe to the NYX ones, but a little bit smoother. I love both. NYX has more shades than Rimmel, but I think they're both incredible formulas. These from Rimmel are $6, so not the cheapest at the drugstore, but still pretty affordably priced. Though, who saw that e.l.f. just announced they're gonna be dropping lip liners for $2? Okay, if my obsession with lip liner was not already like extreme enough, now I'm like, oh, I should get all the e.l.f. ones. $2, I wanna buy all of them. Okay, but I'm telling you, the Rimmel lip liners, high recommendation from me. Lipstick. Something you've probably never heard of because these get zero buzz, okay? I mean, obviously that's the theme of this entire video, but this product in particular is so slept on. This is from the Ulta Beauty Collection, which is the in-house brand at Ulta. In general, super slept on brand, though the price point of the Ulta Beauty Collection is on the higher end of drugstore, but it is always on sale. So you can get it for regular drugstore prices. Okay, so this is called the Gloss Stick. I purchased this last summer when I was looking for a dupe for the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Tints. This is not a dupe for that, I'll tell you that right now. But it's still a great lipstick. And in some ways, I kind of like it better than the Tarte ones. I would define this as like a hydrating lipstick with a bit of a sheen to it. I wouldn't say it's as like hyper glossy as something like the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips or the Flower Beauty ones that are like that or the Hourglass ones. It's not as glossy as those. It's also not as pigmented as the Tarte ones, but it is such a comfortable everyday lipstick formula. I feel like these type of like chubby lip crayons have kind of just fallen out of style, and I do wonder if they will have a resurgence soon, the same way we've seen a lot of other lip categories become really big lately and have a resurgence, like lip stains or tinted lip balms in like a squeezy tube. Is this the future? I hope, because this is just such a comfortable, easy product. If you find that a lot of bullet lipsticks tend to just feel too heavy or even thick on your lips, check this one out from Ulta. Okay, for lip gloss. I have a lot of drugstore lip gloss favorites. I think that's a category that the drugstore excels at. So when I was sitting down to pick the products out, I was like, what's the most underrated? And I'm gonna go with these from Catrice. I think in general, Catrice really just like flies under the radar. And again, I think because similarly to Rimmel, they're a little bit trickier to get your hands on, especially if you're in the US, because they're no longer sold at Ulta, which is kind of a bummer. They do sell Catrice on Amazon and they also have it on their own website, of course. But the Glossin Glow tinted lip oils are stunning, okay? So first things first, these are pH adjusting. So if you are not into that trend, that's another thing that's been like a huge resurgence, the pH adjusting. But if you're not into pH adjusting products, I say skip these. But if you don't mind a little bit of that and you want this juicy, gorgeous glow, these from Catrice are fantastic. Even the packaging, I think, still feels very luxe for the $6 price point. They have the giant doe foot, which I love to see on any type of lip product. I just think these from Catrice are high-end quality, but for $6. The thing about going out of my normal order of like base, cheeks, eyes, lips is that I'm so paranoid that I'm going to miss a category. Like I have my notes here, but I'm like, don't miss anything. But let's talk eyes, okay? So I thought about doing like a full eyeshadow palette, but I just personally have not been into full palettes for a while now. It's rarely what I'm reaching for, so I felt like it made more sense for me to shout out a single eyeshadow. And this is actually what I have on my eyes today. This is from the Ulta Beauty collection. Again, like I said, super underrated. This is called the Bouncy eyeshadow. So the formula of this is a cream to powder finish. I would say texture-wise, it's almost a bit similar to a Colourpop Super Shock Shadow if you're familiar with that formula, where it feels almost spongy in the pan. But then on the eyes, it's not necessarily sitting like a cream. You're getting more of that like glittery powder finish. This is like a sparkle top coat vibe, okay? So if you're into the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows or anything in that vein where it has a very sheer base to it, but that really pretty like glittery sparkle effect on top, you will love this product. My only thing I want to point out here is that these do crease if you use it without any sort of a base. I always use an eyeshadow base because I always get creasing, but I do think these definitely work best with some sort of a primer because they are that cream to powder texture. I feel like they do want to all move into the crease, like all the little shimmer particles want to move into the crease if you don't have a base on there first. But this is incredible. I think it looks so luxe on the eyes. It is reminiscent of a high-end shadow. It's phenomenal. For underrated mascara, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go because I feel like a lot of drugstore mascaras that are great get a lot of buzz, except for this one. This is from Lottie London. And again, I think this falls in the category of it's harder to get. Lottie London also used to be at Ulta, no longer is. Well, I guess technically currently on the Ulta website, there is one product, but they're very clearly being phased out of there. However, they have been entering other retailers lately. They're now at Walmart. I'm pretty sure they're coming to CVS. So you can still get Lottie London. And I highly recommend it if you can, because this mascara is $8 and it is one of the most extreme mascaras that you will find in terms of volume. So if you're into that, definitely check this one out. I think the name Super Fake is so applicable here. The only call out I have with this one is that you need to be okay with like a little bit of clumping, or you need to have a great eyelash separator because the volume that this provides is intense. So what I tend to do is I will apply a coat and then use my lash separator. I have like a metal lash separator. Mine is from Grande Lash, but you could obviously get it elsewhere. But something like that helps to keep the lashes from sticking together while still building the extreme volume that you get from this. Like, I'm telling you, I tend to prefer slightly more natural lash look. That's not what you're gonna get with this. You're gonna get extreme volume. Like, Super Fake is so well named here because that's what it's gonna give you. So if you're into that, check this one out. For brows, I was like, what is an underrated brow product at the drugstore? And this one is kind of newer, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it, and it's actually great. So this is from Essence. It is called the Thick and Wow Fixing Brow Mascara. This launch was hilarious to me because dupes have become so popular that now we're seeing drugstore brands dupe other drugstore brands, because this is supposed to be similar to the NYX Thick It Stick It brow gel, which funny enough, I haven't tried yet. But this one from Essence retails for $6, and I have it in my brows today. It gives really good pigment to the brows. It gives nice hold without being like too stiff. Oh, I misspoke. It's actually $5, which is even better. It does have a very large wand to it. I wish this spoolie was smaller than it is. However, that's kind of more of a preference thing. I have pretty thin and sparse eyebrows to begin with, so I like my brow spoolies to be super, super teeny tiny. But I've had some comments from subscribers saying, you know, I have fuller eyebrows, so for me, that is the ideal shape for a spoolie. So I think it's going to come down to preference, but if you like that, good news, it has a giant spoolie. All right, it is cheeks time. Let's start with powder. This one was tough because I'm going through my powders and I'm like, most of my favorites are high-end. I considered talking about the e.l.f. Halo Glow powder, but I think in general that one is pretty buzzed about. And even the powder that I landed on, I think gets talked about a good amount. But I still think maybe a little underrated because this is a very great powder. This is the Colourpop Pretty Fresh powder. I have mine in the shade Fair 2. This retails for $12 and comes in a wonderful shade range, which is part of the reason I feel like this is such a great and yet underrated powder, because powders in general tend not to have as extensive of a shade range as they should. I feel like brands have gotten a lot better when it comes to foundations and concealers, but when it comes to other powder products on the cheeks, like powder, a blush, a bronzer, we have not seen that range that we're looking for yet, but I feel like Colourpop really excels with that. So if you have a hard time finding your shade in a lot of tinted powders that aren't translucent, try the ones from Colourpop. These are great. This will lock your makeup in, but it doesn't look too heavy. It has a nice diffused finish on the skin. I find myself reaching for this one so frequently. Okay, moving into bronzer. I'm actually really excited to talk about this because I never hear anything about it. I never hear anything. Like, okay, don't get me wrong. Maybe like once or twice I've heard some reviews or other creators mention this, but this is such a cool product. And I think there's a very specific audience that would love this bronzer. So this is from LA Girl. It's called the Velvet Bronzer Contour Stick. It is like a glowy cream bronzer. So when I first purchased this, you saw me testing it out on camera for the first time. Like my very first impression, I swatched it and I was like, oh, what is going on? There is no way this is a bronzer. Even on my fair skin, there is no way this is going to do anything because it is so light. And I was even like confused for a minute there because I'm like, wait, did I accidentally buy a highlighter because it's so glowy, especially in the swatch? But when I tell you, this on the cheeks brings so much life to your skin. It does show up on the skin, even though you wouldn't think it would based on the look in the container. I don't think this is going to be for everyone because I think it's very different than your traditional bronzing stick. So I definitely want to point that out. I would say if you're into more of like a full glam makeup look and you're looking for something to contour your face with and do some really intense sculpting, have a very noticeable bronze effect after you use it, you will not like this. That's not what this product is. It creates this like glowy half blush, half bronzer, half highlight, which 3 halves, that wasn't very good math, but you know what I mean. This is one of those products, if you want like an everything in one, try this. I like to take this, you can draw it directly onto the skin, but I don't like to do that with any stick product. I never get as good of a result. So I draw this directly onto my brush and then stipple it onto the cheeks. I'm wearing it today. I also have on a little bit of the Bare Minerals bronzer in the shade Kiss of Copper. So that's where I'm also getting some of this glow and like coppery blush tone. But this on its own, if you want a singular product that's going to really liven up the skin, give you a little bit of a sun-kissed look, but also like on the cheeks, it almost acts like a nude blush. I know that sounds weird, but just trust me, because it's not so like browny bronzer toned and it also has that glow to it. It's like a bronzer blush highlight in one. Like, it's such a cool product. If you're like a minimal makeup, glowy type of look person, you will really like this. Okay, for blush. This next one, I was like, is this underrated? I talk about it all the time. And then I was like, you know what, it is. Because I don't feel like I hear about it across the board. It's just me that will not shut up about this product. If you know what I'm about to say, comment and tell me below. But the product is the Catrice AirBlush Matte. So this comes in 2 different finishes. The AirBlush has a glowy version and a matte version. I'm specifically shouting out the matte ones here. My favorite is Peach Heaven, but I do also have a mauve shade in this. These are $6. Okay, let me tell you, drugstore prices are climbing. We are at the point where I don't even like bat an eye when I'm seeing drugstore products priced $12 and above, which a few years back, that would have been really extreme. So when there are still products on the market like this from Catrice, or this from LA Girl, this Rimmel, this Essence, like these are all $6 and under, which is so rare at the drugstore these days. I just feel like I need to be shouting them out even more because it's becoming very hard to find makeup that is inexpensive these days. So this from Catrice, even if this was like a high-end price point, I would still be shouting it out based on the formula alone. It is so pigmented and creamy, easy to blend, smoothing on the cheeks. Like, it's a nice powder that doesn't look matte. It is one of the best blush formulas that there is, whether I'm talking high-end or drugstore. These from Catrice, I talk about them a lot, but there's a reason for that. I just want to like shout from the rooftops. This is one of the best blush formulas I've ever used. Okay, base. A lot of these base ones I do not have at the moment because I have used them up. Starting with my primer recommendation, I have used up, I believe, 2 of these in my lifetime. And it is the Ordinary's primer, the High Adherence Silicone Primer. So the Ordinary doesn't have a ton of makeup products, but they do have 2 primers. I have not tried the High Spreadability Primer yet, but I was kind of thinking the other day, like, maybe I should. But the High Adherence Silicone Primer is one of those products that's a little bit pore filling, so it has that smoothing texture to it that's gonna allow your makeup to sit really, really beautifully on top of it. But I also find that it provides a little bit of hydration there as well. You know, that's the thing a lot of times with like more silicone-y smoothing primers. They're not always great for dry skin. I mean, they can be a little bit, but I just find that they don't really provide any additional hydration. And for me, I want a little bit of both. That's what I get from the one from The Ordinary. And it is $6.70. Is that the price? I wrote it down. It was like a weird, very specific price point. Yes, $6.70. Also, I will have it linked. I will have everything linked as always. I do use affiliate links, so if you shop through any of those links, that does support my channel. Thank you if you choose to use them. But I wanted to mention, The Ordinary does like their anti-Black Friday sale, we'll call it. They do it the entire month of November normally. They call it Slowvember. So they've been doing this every year. You can get discount on their website every day except for Black Friday because they kind of want to like discourage people from over consuming, which I think is wonderful. So if you wanted to get this at even more of a discount, that is going on. I think this video is going up during the Sephora VIB sale, but typically they don't include The Ordinary in the sale. Okay, foundation. This one, I was like, this one was tough because I had a few that I debated mentioning, and I'm going to mention one that I mention a lot. I'm sorry, but the Kokie HD Foundation is beautiful. I have fully used it up. Kokie has a couple different foundation formulas, so I'm specifically highlighting the HD one. They do have another one called the Full Coverage Foundation that's also a liquid and is obviously a little bit more full coverage, as the name would imply. That one's nice if you're into more of that glam, high pigment look. But for a day-to-day wear, the HD is so flattering on the skin, okay? It retails for $12. Once again, I feel like the theme of this video is kind of like these products are a little bit harder to find, so nobody talks about them. Like, that's the case with the Kokie one because they're not in stores at a lot of places. I find Kokie at my Sally's. Sally's has Kokie, but not always like the complexion products. Sometimes at Rite Aid if you have a Rite Aid near you. Otherwise, you can buy it right on their website. I am an affiliate with Kokie, so I have a code that will get you 25% off. It's KELLYG25. I'm going to pop it on the screen in case I just said that incorrectly, but this foundation is a bit more medium coverage. It's a more like natural matte finish, but you could make it a little more glowy or a little bit more matte. Wears well, looks like skin. It is an incredible formula. Okay, concealer. Is this underrated or am I cheating? Do people talk about this one? This one they probably do. But I was like, dang, what is really good that's underrated? This just kept coming to my mind. The Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer. And I can't say this is like so underrated because I still hear a decent amount about it, but I think this is a phenomenal formula. The weird thing about this is the shade range. I feel like if you have access to go in stores and find your shade, I would recommend doing that because the undertones are a little bit funky. I have the shade Vanilla, which is still on the lighter side for me. So I would say if you're around my skin tone and you're looking for a brightening concealer, I would try Vanilla. I almost wish I had a slightly deeper shade that was more just like a perfect match for my skin tone. But before I had Vanilla, I had the shade Fair, which weirdly leaned so peach, like to the point where I was like, this kind of almost works like a color corrector. Like I could make it work, but it was incredibly peach. So just keep that in mind based on your undertone if you are looking at the shade Fair. The undertones in this are weird, but like if you find a shade that works for you, the formula is very buildable. It's very smooth, but hydrating on the under eyes without being like too glowy. Wears well, nice level of pigment, good coverage, like such a great concealer. Oh, I knew I was gonna forget something. I was like going over my list. I'm like, did I forget anything when I went in this weird order today? I did, and it was highlighter. The reason I probably forgot highlighter is because I'm just not a highlighter girly, so it was even hard for me to pick one. I'm like, I just rarely wear highlight, but one that I love so much is the highlighter from Burt's Bees. Nobody talks about it, but it's great. It's called the Luminizer. It retails for $9, and if you're into a more sheared out liquid highlight, this is the one to try. This is very similar to something like a Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, or even like the new Drunk Elephant Be Goldy drops. This is kind of a similar vibe to that, where you could use it as a base, or you could mix it in with your foundation, or you could use it as a highlighter. The only thing I'll say about this one, the packaging is a little bit fragile, and I have what I believe is like a super mega grip, because I tend to break anything with a twist off cap. I don't care what it is. If there's a twist on cap, I probably broke it, because I have this weird fear that everything is going to leak, so I will put things on so tight. So if you have a super strength grip, just know you're probably gonna break this. That's what I did, so I had to throw it away because it was broken. But the formula is great. Just be careful with the cap. Whew, okay, these products needed a bit more attention, so I'm glad we were able to talk about them today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more drugstore content, be sure to subscribe, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye!